In this video, basically what I want to do is I want to give a brief introduction to ancient philosophy. Ancient philosophy, I'm kind of going to go through a couple different, philosophers and movements here, just to kind of give an introduction into the ancient philosophers and what that, all entails when we talk about ancient philosophy. And if you take a class in history of ancient philosophy or ancient philosophy, this is probably what you would be studying. So I'm going to go through them and then talk about what each of them entails and what ancient philosophy really is about. First, we have the Pre-Socratics, the philosophers before Socrates. These are philosophers who are like Thales and Heraclitus, and there's like a lot more than that. And basically what the Pre-Socratic we're talking about is the earliest form of metaphysics. Thales, Thales talked about what kind of substance the world is. A lot of what the Pre-Socratics talked about is what the world is made of, what the substance is, and other metaphysical things, mostly about substance. I believe, if I haven't really read anything about him for a while, but I believe he was talking about how the world was of water. Heraclitus talked about the world that's having to do with fire and logos, and how the world is gradually changing. And there's a book called Ancient Philosophy that has like passages from many of those Pre-Socratics. So following them, we had the philosopher of Socrates. He wrote nothing. He only talked. He basically talked, and he debated, and he argued. He was often referred to as a sycophant in Plato's dialogues. I think that's the term, because basically what he does, in every one of Plato's dialogues, because Socrates appears in Plato's dialogues. Plato was a student of Socrates, and Plato wrote down all these dialogues, talking about various different things. And Socrates is basically the one who talks as Plato in his dialogues. Socrates, from what we know in Plato's dialogues, constantly asked questions. He always asked questions and tried to ask people why they think a certain thing, and end up making them doubt what they think. Like, because if in the Republic of Plato, Socrates basically is asking what justice is, and he kind of gets some of the people that he's talking with to kind of doubt what they thought justice was, and he doesn't always give his opinion. He just constantly asks questions and never ends with a certain theory, or a certain thing. He always asks questions. He does have opinions, and those come through in Plato's dialogues. He does have opinions and beliefs, but he is different from other philosophers because he keeps on asking questions, and it never ever ends. And that's kind of why people didn't like him as much. They thought he was corrupting youth, and there's lots of interesting dialogues of Plato to read about, or to read, that kind of gives you a little bit. We're not sure how accurate. I think it's pretty accurate because Plato was a student. It gives you kind of a brief glimpse into who Socrates was and what he did. Plato, like I said, Socrates' student, was basically Alfred North Whitehead. This is a famous quote from him. Every philosophy is basically footnotes to Plato. So, like, Plato had a metaphysics, an ethics, a political philosophy, an epistemology, thoughts about education. He had a lot of stuff in all of his dialogues. some dialogues of his would be the Republic. That's one of the main ones to read. Phaedo, Phaedrus, Meno, Symposium, and Euthyphro, and many, many more. Whitehead basically said this because we are all kind of just this. He kind of started the whole snowball of that. Kind of helps you to understand the history of philosophy, because Plato had all these opinions, and that caused philosophers, Aristotle being one of the first ones, to object to him and kind of, so Aristotle, objected to some of Plato's thoughts, and on it goes, and that's why philosophy is as big as it is today, because, somebody says one thing and then somebody else says another thing in counter argument, and it just snowballs. That's what the history of philosophy is. Plato's philosophy of his metaphysics has to do with the forms. Famous thing, we have the abstract and the concrete. The concrete is like, if I have this marker, this is a concrete object which is in actual existence. However, the red of the marker is something that is individuated in many, many objects. So red, the concept of red, isn't just constituted in this one marker. There are many things that are red in the world. So the abstract concept of red, we have the form of redness. That's the way Plato would say it. The form of redness, and the form of redness is instantiated in various degrees in many, many concrete objects in the world. And this is a big dichotomy that stays throughout metaphysics into today. And some people are against this, and since Plato, many people have been against his abstract forms. And the Plato's heaven, heaven, that's what they call it. They call it this realm of the forms. You had the form of the good, which is what all of everything in the world is trying to, I guess, we should all try to align ourselves with that. And his political philosophy is built around that. And I have videos. I have a video for every book of the Republic, and I have other videos about Plato's political philosophy. So I can go into that. I go into that more in depth there. But that's a brief scratching the surface of Plato. Aristotle, who was a student of Plato, had some works which are not very easy to understand. They're very complex works. We have the metaphysics. We have the politics, the physics, the Nicomachean ethics, and many, well, not many others, but there's quite a few others. Aristotle, basically, there's the one thing that I've studied the most about Aristotle is his ethics. I've studied Aristotle in his ethics and politics, and not so much his metaphysics, but he builds upon Plato's forms and disagrees with Plato on many different things, and builds his own very complex metaphysics. In his book, The Metaphysics, what he does is he asks questions about existence and what types of things exist which is kind of a concept of ontology. He asks those questions, and there's quite a few books in that one book, and it's kind of a complex read, but it is a good one to read though. I should probably study that more. His political philosophy is based upon his ethics mostly, but there's many other dynamics in it. The main thing about Aristotle, he was the first one to come up with the concept of a virtue ethics. Virtue ethics, we have We have running out of room here. Arete. I'm not sure. Yeah, the thing probably goes there. Phronesis. I have videos about this as well, and these concepts were his. Virtue, we develop our character through virtues, our excellence, excellence. We develop our character through living by certain virtues, and we have like a habitual build-up. But this is like a very brief thing. The actual book goes into it in much more depth than I could possibly do here. And we have phronesis, which is practical wisdom in your moral scruples, and eudaimonia, which is a flourishing or a form of happiness through virtue. That's just like a very, very cursory and very brief way of doing it, and I couldn't possibly do justice to this. So this is something that needs to be studied really, really in depth to possibly have an idea about it. And I couldn't possibly even give you an idea, but I need to mention him because he's a very main part of ancient philosophy. Following Aristotle, we have two things, and we have cynicism and Plotinus, which I don't really know that much about cynicism or Plotinus. We have Stoicism and we have cynicism. I don't know too much about cynicism. And then we have another ancient, close to ancient philosopher called Plotinus. I don't know that much about these two, but I think you should know that this is a part of the ancient philosophy era. Epicurus was a big one. You can get a little book that has like a bunch of it's a compiled works of his letters and such. The letter to Menesius is probably a really good one to understand his philosophy of happiness. He's kind of a hedonistic, consequentialist philosopher, and I have a couple of ways on him. Basically, people think that his philosophy is about, living up and partying and doing as much as you can to be happy, but it's a little more complex than that, and it's not as much as that. It's to do what you can to be happy, but forego smaller pleasures to gain better pleasures, and endure some pains to get the better pleasures. So that's a little more complex there, but than people think. But then the Stoics, which I have read some of that, and I don't know. I'm not like a huge expert or read up on it. The first ones we have Zeno, Cleanthes, and Crispus. Zeno and Cleanthes, make appearances in Plato's dialogues. The later ones we have Epicurus, Marcus Aurelius, Cicero, Seneca, and some people put Virgil in there as well. I don't really though. Basically, Epicurus has a book called Enchiridion, which has a lot of numbered points here, which give you basic ideas of how you should live your life. Marcus Aurelius has a Meditations. Cicero and Seneca are ones I haven't read into much. Stoicism, the movement of Stoicism, has to do with three things: logic, ethics, and metaphysics. Basically, it's about living in accordance with nature. It's morality by virtue, and compatibilism, which is determinism plus free will. And that's a big theory today as well. Like that has been, since Plato and all these guys. So they have a lot of that, but it's about these guys kind of give you ideas about how to live your life by virtue and nature and such. And they also have a metaphysics in there as well. I've read mostly Epictetus. I think it's a good read. Aurelius I have read a little bit about this. This is a very cursory and very scratching the surface of this, of all of this really. So if you think I've messed up something or left out something in a brief intro to ancient philosophy, please comment below. I'd love to discuss with you. And if you have a question about something, also comment below. I'm pretty out of all these things, I'm most read up on Plato and Epicurus. The other ones, I've kind of have read, but not as much as I should have. So, thank you.